Hey everyone, look, good morning and welcome to the Lioness Den. We are so ecstatic to have you here today. This is our yearly mental health check-in, and every year during the Christmas season, we come together and have a mental health check-in. And so this year is no different, but I hope that you glean something that helps you through this holiday season. So, we're about to go into the Lioness Den, but before we get there, I'm going to slow down and we're going to take out our phones. You know, we take out our phones each time, and we're going to our social media, our Facebooks, our Instagrams, and we're going to share this broadcast with all of our friends because the information that's about to come up is going to be amazing. Look, guys, we all know what the holidays are like and we all know what we deal with. And so this specific mental health check-in is going to help us not only go through the holiday season, but through this whole next year, 2025. Here at the Lioness Den, we are so concerned about your mental health because we know that it really does matter. So take your phone out. I got mine out and share. You can go to your messenger, you can share it. We go to the Lioness Den on there and share it on your page. You can do all of that, but share this broadcast right now so that everyone will know we are here on the Lioness Den and we are talking about mental health matters. So, without further ado, let us go into the Lioness Den. Hey, everybody, we are back. Look, this year, everyone on that openings intro to the program has been on this program, and today is just the same. We are here with our all-time favorites, my all-time favorites, if it's not yours, but I think they're yours too, Miss Adrian Holloman and Miss Ebony Vaughn. Look, so let's welcome them now. Hello, ladies.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you ladies doing?
Good.
We are extremely happy to have you here today. It's just like homecoming almost. I think that's what I would like to call it. It's almost like homecoming, you know. Homecoming. I haven't seen you for a while, and when I see you, it's like a big hug. I'm so happy to see you again. So I'm so happy to see you ladies again and to have you here sharing with the Lioness Den about our mental health. This has been an extremely interesting year for us. I think for all of us with everything that has happened. And so I am grateful that you are here and that I can see you and not view you. I think that's the way it's said. If I say it properly, that I can see you and not view you.
Yeah.
So as we go into the Lioness Den, let's start with having each of you introduce yourself. I'll start with Ebony and then Adrian.
Hello, everyone. I am Ebony Vaughn. I love the Lioness Den and Miss Lydia Chapman. I am a therapist and a lover of God, and I am so excited to be here another time.
And Adrian?
Hey, everybody. I'm Adrienne Holloman. I am a life coach and a minister, and I'm like Ebony. I love the Lioness Den and Lydia. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm so excited. Thanks for having me again.
Look, I have to tell you guys, I'm so honored. I always say this, and I've had people chuckle at me about this, but I explained to them that here on the Lioness Den, we love God, but we are very cognizant of that. We just don't bring anyone before the people, because you can have people giving their opinion all day, but if you don't have qualified people, your opinion just unfortunately doesn't count as much. That's
Yes.
just the bottom line. And so we try to make sure that we bring people who not only are anointed and appointed, but people who are qualified to talk about the subjects that we need to talk about on this channel. So thank you, ladies, because I'm honored to have you. And I'm honored just that, you guys are my friends. I can say that. Sometimes you can't say that people are your friends, but you guys are definitely my friends, and you have supported the Lioness Den, Life Happens, just the mental health conference, all of it. So thank you, 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 thank you. Um, and as we move forward, I'd love to get into it because we always run out of time and we never seem to quite finish. So I like to get into it with you, and start off with most of us have dealt with loss during this season. One of our great supporters has passed away. He's been a supporter of the Lioness Den and everything else, and so we know what it is to lose one of our own. That's how I'll say it, because he was one of our own. Dr. Michael Bonds was one of us, and he would come and share with us. And so this is a season where we have, especially this year, it seems like we've seen a lot of loss of family members, co-workers, church members. And I want to talk about how we deal with the grief, because grief, it comes in waves. It creeps up when we least expect it. So in this holiday season where, they say have a holly jolly Christmas, that's one of the songs. During your holly jolly Christmas, sometimes grief can interfere in your holly and your jolly. So how do we deal with, or what are some pointers for dealing with grief during this specific season? Anybody can start. I'm not going to call you like you in school tonight today.
Okay, so I'll start. I think some of the pointers is to acknowledge where you are, right? Um, we know that we are in a place where there's grieving, where we're hurting, where there's loss, but we can't act like it doesn't exist,
Mhm.
right? So we have to acknowledge it, feel where you are, and then decide where you're going to move from there, right? So we cannot allow it to completely immobilize us, because the further in you go, the further in you go, right? And so we have to at some point say, okay, I'm gonna grieve now. This overwhelming tears are coming now, and I'm gonna let them out now. But this afternoon, I got to put that tree up because the kids are looking and they're waiting and they still want to celebrate. So I'm going to do what I need to do at that point. I'm going to go ahead and get this out right now because I need to get it out right now. But at some point today, this is the thing on my list that I'm going to have to get done.
Yeah, yeah. I so agree with that. Acknowledgement and awareness is so important. And I also think that we have to affirm ourselves and allow ourselves to be in the moment that we're
Mhm.
in, right? And I think that that goes in many ways. First and foremost, like Adrian has already spoke about, but the other part, and you touched on it, Lydia, is that oftentimes they come in waves, and so you could have a really good day today, and then, or a good week or a good month, and then the next month it's not as good.
Yeah.
And the reason why I wanted to spell that out is because sometimes when you're in that good space, it's almost like you remind yourself, oh, wait, I'm grieving.
Mhm.
And sometimes we pull ourselves in a place that we're not actually in. And I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that sometimes the awareness, we have to be careful about where we are in the moment, because if I'm having a good day and then the thought comes through my mind of the loved one, that doesn't mean that my day has to go down at that point.
Right.
That just means that the thought is there. Allow yourself to get through the thought
Mhm.
and keep moving if you can. And I
Mhm.
but and so it's important to say that, because sometimes there is an element of guilt
Guilt.
that we may face, because we could be having a good week and a good month, and it's like, wait, am I supposed to be sad? Am I supposed to feel this way?
Mhm.
And so I think it's really important for that awareness piece, that acknowledgement, but then also affirming yourself. Where you are is where you are.
Mhm.
And I think the other thing that's important is that you remain where you are, because sometimes, and people don't always do it maliciously, or don't always do it intentionally, but you could be having a really good day or really good month, and someone comes and like, oh, are you okay? And I know that this is so and so and so and so, and it's like, well, dang, I was okay until you came, you know and so being able to regulate that a little bit in terms of protecting you and
Mhm.
protecting where you are. And it's okay to not be okay, but
Mhm.
it's also okay to be okay. And I
Mhm.
think, it's been my experience, especially as I have walked through this year and continue to walk through this difficult time. I have to do that. I have to affirm myself and know where I am and be okay with it. Every day is not a bad day, and so I'm not going to act like it is, because it's
Okay.
not.
Right.
And I think sometimes people don't understand that, and it doesn't mean that you are suppressing, or that you are denying it. It just means that today is a good day.
Yep.
So through the holidays, you want to truly, truly, as Adrian has already said, but you want to be aware, you want to affirm, and you also want to allow yourself to be good, to
Yeah.
be good with your holiday, or be good with just resting.
Mhm.
So I think those are some, really good tips to have as well.
Absolutely. One of the things that I've noticed that sometimes people are guilty for being good.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
they're guilty because I actually feel good this year
Yeah.
and I'm feeling good, but should I be feeling good? Because
Mhm.
maybe I should be grieving.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
That guilt factor in every aspect of life, I feel like that's the one factor you have to do your best to get rid of.
Mhm.
Because guilt, a lot of times we're guilty for things we don't even need to be guilty for, but we're guilty for those things as if they really matter and I really should feel bad. You
Mhm.
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
I really
Mhm.
should. And that's what when you were saying, Ebony, I really should feel bad, even though I'm kind of enjoying this holiday.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I should
Mhm.
feel bad because someone's not here, because things are not perfect. I should feel bad. And we really have to denounce guilt. That was one
Mhm.
of the things I talked about in the book of divorce and guilt,
Mhm.
because we
Yeah.
get married to guilt and guilt creeps up, especially during this time. We marry it, it creeps up, it becomes just we lock arms with it. Hey, I can be guilty now because this is the time I'm supposed to be guilty.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
when we divorce guilt and begin to partner with other things like peace and happiness and love and joy, it helps us through, these types
Yeah.
of situations, because now I know I have a loss, but
Yeah.
I choose to be happy.
Mhm.
I
And
Yeah.
choose to enjoy this holiday.
mhm.
Because sometimes it's as simple as I'm going to make a choice this time.
Yeah. And one of the things about guilt is it destabilizes.
Yes.
You've made progress and you're doing well. And then when you start to feel guilty, you go back in like, oh man, No, don't. As she said, divorce guilt, so
Yeah.
that you continue to make the progress that you've made. And you
Yeah.
will have good days. There'll be some bad days, but they're going to be, you'll start stacking up some good days.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I love that sacking up because it's kind of like, get them good days in because there may be some days that are not good and being able to be strengthened as you go through those days are and those difficult days are important too. And I always say that grief is not something you get over, it's something you grow through, right? And so we don't get over the loss of a loved one. We don't get over transition. We don't get over the loss of a job or loss of relationship. We get through it and we grow through it. And I think that, that is important, especially when we're talking about grief, because again, as we always talk about, we're not just talking about loss of a loved one with grief, but we're also talking about transitions in life and changes in life and new beginnings and those things where we are separating from one aspect and moving into another, and that is grief. Sometimes we grieve what we want but we don't have, so those are things that we always have to understand that we don't get over, we get through, and we get through it by all of the things that we talked about, but also by giving ourselves permission to do so. I always say, I always say that it's important for us to be intentional about what we want, and what I mean by that is if you want to be free, if you want to experience joy despite your loss, then you have to be intentional about it. If you want to continue to grieve and look at what you've lost and not what you've gained, then sometimes you stay in that state, whether it's sadness or disappointment or anger or whatever that might be. But I think it's important for us to be intentional in our self-care as we go through or grow through grief.
Absolutely. Because the self-care part of it is it's interesting how it works hand in hand with the recovery as we working through it, because sometimes we just need to recover, and self-care, taking that moment of self-care for yourself. And we talked about this before. Self-care is not just the nails and the hair. Sometimes it's a day of just rest and relaxation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it's reading a book, getting some fuel towards how to go to that next step. So self-care means a lot. People minimize it to the hair and nails and things like that, but you can maximize it with just a day of sleeping. Today
Yeah.
I decided that I'm staying in the bed.
Yep.
And it's not because I am depressed. It's because I just want to rest. I want to watch a few Christmas movies. I want to, sit back with whatever I want to eat. If I got ice cream today, it's a no guilt zone. I'm gonna have some ice cream today, and I'm gonna watch a movie. That's self-care. That's also caring for yourself. And we have to know that it's also caring for our mental health, because our brains, if you are like me, my brain goes almost 24/7. Sometimes I feel like I need to call Ebony and ask her for a moment just to lay on her couch because,
Mhm.
yeah, my brain goes 24/7. Like, if you're like me, some days I'm up at 11:30 because my brain is still going and I haven't had the opportunity, or haven't taken, I have to say it right, I haven't taken the opportunity to wind down. And so winding down is part of your self-care so that you can actually rest. And so
Yeah.
that if you're grieving, it gives you a break. It gives your body a break, which was something we talked about this year at Life Happens, giving your body a break at night to rejuvenate.
Mhm.
Because when your brain is going 24/7, your body is kind of going 24/7 too, because your brain keeps it moving, doesn't give it a chance to reset. That's what you said, right, Adrian? Because you were talking about that. Doesn't give you a chance to reset.
Mhm.
So yeah. With the conscious decision not to, I don't want to, I do want to say it, but I don't want to say it. So I'm going to say it and y'all can just correct me. Not to dwell in a space. Because many of us, and I think Ebony was talking about it a minute ago, we get into a space where we dwell, we kind of sink into the space. And even when we're making that decision that we're gonna do something else, we're gonna be joyful, we find ourselves sinking. What do we do with the sinking feeling? Because we talked about trying doing the joy and all of that, but the sinking feeling, which a lot of times I think takes us into that whole depressed state because we're sinking and we feel like we're in quicksand. What do we do with that feeling? And I'm gonna ask you, Ebony, for what do we do with that sinking feeling? Because that sinking feeling is a real thing, and I can tell you from experience, it doesn't feel like something I can just make a conscious decision to move out of. Let me
Yeah,
be honest, just
yeah,
doesn't feel that way.
yeah. Well, I think that when you think about that sinking feeling, first and foremost, I think it's important to allow yourself to sink. That's number one. And what I
Mm,
and I need to clarify that. So I'm not saying spend a year in a pit, but what I'm saying is in that moment, that's a moment. It is a moment that you have to get through, and psyching yourself up and saying, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, and then just kind of get out of it, that's not going to help you. Right. And so sinking is allowing yourself, you in that moment, you are struggling with the loss. What I will say is in that moment, if that's where you are, think more about the positive things. Start to recollect on memories that make you smile, or memories that kind of make you change that sinking, if you understand what I'm saying. Because sometimes that sinking place, first and foremost, is important in the grieving process. It's important because it's where a person is.
Right.
It becomes dangerous when you don't come out. So the the way that you come out is um, the way that you guide your thoughts, right? And guide what you dwell on. Instead of dwelling on that person is no longer here, dwell on what they were when they were here. And
Mhm.
so
mm,
now we're not focusing on loss, we're focusing on what impact they made in
Yeah.
our lives.
Yeah.
So those kinds of things, thinking about not the fact that they're no longer here anymore, but remembering what they were to you when they were here. You
Mhm.
know, if it's a holiday, maybe thinking about the holiday when you were dancing and when you heard that person's voice. And some may say, I think about those things and I think even more. Okay, but then you have to be intentional about guiding yourself out of that. And for those of us who know the Lord, we know that prayer will strengthen us. Now, and I'm not saying that prayer will stop us from grieving. I want to make that very clear, because it don't. Right.
Mm-mm.
And God has given us the ability to grieve, and that's
Yeah.
a good thing. And
Yeah.
so but I believe that as we pray and as we continue to be intentional about those things that we think about, um, I think that it's going to be important. It's going to be important, and it'll help us get through that moment. But that doesn't mean we won't get there again, depending upon what that person has meant to you. So
Yeah.
sinking is not a dangerous place. That's not a dangerous place, but staying there is. And I
Yeah.
think that that is the difference. Like some people say, I don't allow myself to cry because I feel like if I start crying, I'm not going to stop. Not stopping, crying is not an issue, but it's what you're doing with it that
Mhm.
that is the issue. And so I just think that, those are things that, and there's so many other things, but I think our thought processes is what helps guide us out of those things. And even if, we are doing intentional things like memorializing them or thinking about things that they would do, another way to get yourself out of that, out of that place is to maybe cook a dish that that person has cooked, or do something that that person may like. And that way you feel like you are still with them. And I want to share like a personal testimony of, like, I was telling I had a meeting with my family the other day, and I was saying to them that, it's so funny because when my mom was alive, I would always say that I look more like my father. But there is parts of my mother, but I look more like my father. And what I was saying to them is that since she's passed, sometimes there are certain times during the day or during the week when I look in the mirror, I see her face, right? And what I was saying to them is that was God's way of showing me that she is still with me. And I say that to say, sometimes you can look at that and get really down and kind of begin, to again get in that sunken place, because it's like, whoa, she's not here. But when you have those kinds of experiences, instead of taking it that way, you could remind yourself that that person is still with you. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like how we choose to view things or interpret things. I could have taken that very experience and spent the week in the bed because I saw my mother's face. But the fact of the matter is, in that moment, I needed her and she appeared, but it was just me. And there's nothing spooky about it.
Right.
Y'all know what I'm talking about, but I just saw her face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That. Go ahead, Adrienne. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I think about that too. There have been times when something will happen, and I'll look in the mirror, and people tell me all the time, "You look just like your mother. You all look just like." I'm like, I know, and then I'll look in the mirror and go, "Mwah. Hey, Carolyn, my 2 fingers is my kiss to her." It's just something sweet, and I just remember it, and that's like, oh, okay, we can do this,
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I get the chance to see both of my parents in my face. So it's very interesting when you can see both of them at one point or another. But it does give you comfort. It gives you comfort. My mom always told us this statement that she told it to all of her children. I had the next one so that you would never be alone.
Wow.
And that has been a unifying statement for me and my siblings, because we lost both of our parents and grandparents on both sides.
Wow.
So that unifying statement keeps us together. That I had you for her, and she would go. I had Lydia first, and I had Esther, so Lydia would have a friend. And I had Rachel so that Esther and Lydia would have a friend. And then she goes all the way down. It's 6 of us by my mom and 8 of us with my dad's two kids. And so when anything gets really down, or you really get, my sisters will say in a minute, I don't have to have any friends because my mother had friends just for me. I always got friends because she had us some friends, And my sister Dominique, always, she's like, I'm so glad I got an older sister, because it's tough being the oldest, because on her side, she's the oldest. And, that type of thing keeps us, so tightly knit. So when something happens, we stay together. And people ask all the time, how do you do it? My mother, when she was alive, would always say, I want y'all to be close. And, we would have our inward bickering all the time. But when she passed, I say it all the time to anybody who asks how we do it. We made a conscious decision as a group.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like, we literally decided that we would not be broken apart, no matter what anyone said or did. And she's been gone. My daughter's 16, so she's been gone 18 years. And in 18 years, even with us, we don't agree every day, but we spend every holiday together. Every this time of year we spend it together, because it's a thing that we will be unified no matter what. And when anything happens for any of us, we're all there. And so that is, like, when you said that, it just reminded me, because sometimes even when you don't see them, you can hear them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
And
You can
that's the
hear them.
intentionality. And that's the intentionality. Like you said, we made a conscious decision.
Yes, you
So
Hmm.
when you ask that question about how do you get out of that sunken place, that's the real key. It's not that you're there because there's nothing wrong with that place. You were blessed to love someone. You were blessed to
Mhm.
have somebody in your life for as long as you had them in your life. And so now that they are no longer with you physically, you have to deal with that. So there will be those sunken times, there will be
Mhm.
those difficult times, but like you said, making a conscious choice to do what with those feelings and to interpret those experiences
Hmm.
in a way that brings you joy and
Yeah,
not sorrow, or
yeah,
joy and sorrow, but you want the joy to prevail. And I think that that is important because you and I can have, you, myself, and Adrian can have all of those experiences that we talked about, and those bring us joy. But for someone else, seeing the sight of their parents when they look at them, or, you
yeah,
know, blowing that kiss to their mom when they look at themselves in the mirror, or like I said, looking at me, for some people, that might take them on a downward spiral.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's a conscious decision, and not everybody understands that we have control over that to a
yeah.
certain extent.
Mhm.
And,
Yes,
and,
that
and
It's,
we're not trying to avoid it. We're not trying to not to make it not happen. We're trying to learn how to navigate and manage it as it does happen.
and how to
yes,
grow through it, as you said.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
yeah,
know, how to go
yeah,
grow through it. But it's
yeah.
just amazing the power of the mind, that
Yes.
intention, that
Yes.
intention. You are able to break anything with an intention,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
if we just decided that we were going to change the narrative, I decided my mom died 3 days before her birthday. Her birthday was June 24th, and she died on June 21st. And so I decided we were going to change the meaning of that day because I would always kind of get in a funk close to that time, not even realizing it until I'm in the middle of it, like, oh, okay, we're at June 20 something. So I did a book for my granddaughter, and I released it on 6/21. Then my other granddaughter was born 6/22. So we have forever changed the meaning of that date. And that was intentional.
That's
I could
good.
have released it any other time, but I chose that date to change the meaning of it.
Good. That's
Yeah,
good. That's
yeah.
good.
That's big of changing, the
Mhm.
meaning. When you say that, we actually do something similar in my family because we make sure that my sister always goes out on the 28th of December
Mm-hmm.
because her birthday is the 28th, yet it's the day we buried my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at, that week is already an up and down, tipsy turvy place for us. But to actually bury her on the morning of her birthday, we have to do something to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that her birthday doesn't always become a sad time of year,
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
and that's another reason we kind of band together because we know she was only, what, about 15, 16 years old. And when you
Mm-hmm.
think of losing somebody at that age, it's like, and I lost my mom on that. That's when I lose my mom on that. So it becomes a constant. But
Mhm.
that's one of those things as families, I think we have to learn is that as families, we grieve together, but we also create new memories together.
Yes,
Yes.
right.
So the
Yes.
same way that we said, we're grieving. Let's say, this year we're going to do something. So mommy died and we were all home. Let's go on a trip this year. Let's
Mhm.
do something different. Let's
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
change the narrative, change the scenery, whatever it takes. Guys, grief will suck you in, but you have to try to find that thing that says, I'm doing something to get me out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is,
And I
is that
think
the proper thing, Ebony?
yes, and I think that that is when we start talking about making new memories, as you and Adrian described. I think that those are very important things, and I think the other part to grieving as a family, because you grieve as a family and then you grieve individually. But I want us to be careful about grieving as a family because sometimes people tend to bleed on you, and you have
Mm.
to be very careful that you're not attempting to carry someone else's grief. You know,
Yes.
people are always looking for, oh, this, they gonna keep the whole family together. And if that's not your ministry, it's not your ministry. And let's not do that. Let's not try to be this strong person who keeps everything together when you're suffering, right? Now, I
Mhm.
know that, you know, whenever there's a loss, and I've experienced this, you know, there's always a person that may have to be the administrator, or who might have to do whatever it is they need to do. But that doesn't mean that they are the carrier of people's grief. So let me make sure this person is okay and this person is okay, because that's where you can become overwhelmed, and you
Mhm.
begin, you know, really to it's almost like people will project their pain and their grief onto you. And now, you know, you could come in their presence and you were already a certain way. Now it feels like a bag of rocks is on your back.
Hmm.
Not only are you dealing with yours, but you're worried, or you're thinking about them and what they're doing. And I think that it is very important for us to have those boundaries where we understand that although I love my family and we are grieving together, you have to recognize that there are parts that you can only carry. They can only carry, and you can only carry. And sometimes it's not intentional. It's not like people want to just drop everything on you, but sometimes maybe that's the way the relationship is. But when
Yes.
it comes to grief, and it comes to you losing someone significantly close to you, you have to be careful that you're caring for yourself. And that is another way of self-care. Another way to care for ourselves is to be careful that we're not carrying a load not ordained for us, right? You know, and that's the part that a lot of times we don't see. And we don't have to be the martyr. We don't have to be that one that is, you know, and sometimes as families, it's kind of like, you know, if the matriarch or the patriarch, your uncle, you know, he just passed. And so now it's like, who's going to take his place? Well,
Mhm.
what is that? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Right.
let's not
Right.
put any burdens on
Right.
ourselves that's not necessary. And I think every family is different. And although I didn't have that experience, I know people, and I've worked with people who felt the responsibility of
Yes.
stepping up to
Yes.
be that person. And okay, if that's your cross to bear, but if it's
That's
Mhm.
not, can you say no? Can you decline that? And
Mm.
that's a very important part of your grieving, because that will cause you, you know, to build resentments even in your grieving process, because
yes.
now you feel like there's an obligation to pick up a weight that was never yours to carry.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, Lady
Which adds to the
L.A.
guilt that we
Wilson.
told you to divorce.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, L.A. Wilson, who comes on here with us sometimes, she always says no is a complete sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we have to use that complete sentence to preserve ourselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have to use the complete sentence of no to preserve yourself. And so I understand. I understand well. I'm a big person who doesn't know how to use the no complete sentence. I'm still learning. But I do understand that it is a complete sentence. And sometimes it's exactly what saves you from you.
Mm-hmm.
And once
Yeah.
you learn it real good, boy, is it freeing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, y'all, I'm just gonna tell y'all, we're already about 40 minutes in. It happens every time. We haven't even gotten to the second topic yet. We just stayed on the first one. But we're gonna talk a little bit about the second one, which is people who have not uh returned to seeing their family since COVID. They're
Mhm.
in this whole fear of what could happen. Or they've developed a new tradition. Basically, I no longer need to see the whole family anymore because, you know, what if it happens again? So I've developed a tradition where now, you know, instead of me going out and seeing Adrian and Ebony and we all sitting down together, I'm okay with my 3 people now because the 10 or 15 family members may, I don't know what could happen. Basically, that's what it is. What could happen keeps me from visiting family. It keeps me in the house. COVID is still in my brain, even though we know that it's never going to be gone more than likely, but it's still in my brain and I just don't feel comfortable anymore around family. What advice would you share with them for this particular fear?
Mm,
Again,
mm,
it's intentional. You have to choose that I'm not going to be captive of my mind and what could possibly happen. I'm not going to live my life in fear. I'm just not going to do it. I was talking to somebody the other day, and we can add to that the new political
mhm,
scene that we're in. And
Yes,
so I was
yes,
talking to
absolutely.
somebody, and they were talking about how they've got all the salmon, and they bought this and they bought that. They're prepared to be in the house at least for a year. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to live like that. I'm going to make a conscious decision that I'm going to continue to live my life.
mhm,
Right. So if that means I'm going to take my vitamin C, my vitamin D, my whatever vitamins I need to have to make sure that I'm living, taking care of my health, drinking my green teas and whatever I need to do so that I'm overall healthy, but I'm not going to be captive to a house. I just refuse to. And so
Right.
that's what
mhm,
you kind of have to do. You have to, if you're not there completely, begin to get there, right?
mhm,
Small steps. I'm going to lunch with one person this month. I'm going
mm,
to lunch, I'm going to my sister-in-law's house, and I know it's only going to be 4 of them. I mean,
mhm,
just begin to gradually get yourself out of the house, because the longer you stay in, the longer you're going to stay in. And it just
mhm.
gets worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that and as Adrian was talking, I was just thinking about, sometimes well, let me go back and say that one of the things that has increased more and more since COVID is the onset or the report of anxiety, of general anxiety disorder, specific phobia, disorder, and agoraphobia, right? So those are the 3 disorders that we've seen a lot of them. We have seen an influx of people desiring emotional support dogs. And so I have a lot of people that come through the practice and they're like, hey, I want to get this emotional support dog. So anxiety has definitely been something that has definitely increased more and more. And I don't know if the prevalence of it has increased as much as the report of it, for many reasons, right? So I will say that. So you have the agoraphobia, you have the generalized anxiety disorder, and you have specific phobia. So those are all things that people often struggle with. But sometimes we have to ask ourselves a question of, is it really COVID, or do you just not want to go? You know what I mean? Like sometimes, like sometimes, I mean, we're not denying the existence of someone's mental health issues, but on the same token, some of the questions that I always ask is, do you want to go? Like, and sometimes people didn't want to be there before COVID, you know what I mean? But they did it out of obligation. And now there's an excuse for it. Just because you have a justification for it, it doesn't mean it's truth. It just means this is your way of getting
Your way
out
out.
of it, right? So that's just it could be a very small percentage, like 1%. I'm not talking about folk, okay? But the other
However,
but the other part to that is, really having that awareness and that acknowledgement of just what you are afraid of. Is it
yes.
afraid of getting sick? Is it afraid of dying? Is it like what is the fears that really triggers those kinds
Yes.
of episodes? So I just think that it's not cut and dry, like some
Yeah.
people, and we knew this in the height of COVID, that all things were not going to be the same again,
Right.
because now we have been introduced to a more convenient way of living, things that we did not do before. And so now, with the onset of virtual, and just everybody opening things up virtually, everybody using phones, like all of those things. So with those comfortabilities and those concessions, some people, they're not turning back. Darn anxiety, I just don't want to do this no more. I don't have to.
Hmm.
Right? So, you know what I mean? I mean, it does, think about it. How popular is DoorDash now? How popular are, some of these other things? So I just wanted to put that out there. But what I will say about the anxiety piece is the intentionality is important. Understanding where it's coming from is important, and being honest about it, but then really also dealing with it. Do you want to deal with it? Like, are you,
Yeah.
I'm anxious, or I want to be better? I'm anxious and I want to be better, because sometimes we wear it as a garment and we allow ourselves to be imprisoned by our own
Mhm.
thought patterns.
Yeah.
Anxiety
Yeah.
becomes a prison for many of us. And
Yeah.
that prison is a form of control, because when you are most of the patients that I work with that suffer from generalized anxiety disorder and also agoraphobia, their main motive is to remain in control of their environment. And so
Mhm.
when you go to a public place, you can't see everything. You don't know what's in back of you, or on what's on side of you, or what's coming. And that is a loss of control. And
Yeah.
so, more times than not, staying away and remaining in your comfort zone, it has to do with you maintaining control of your environment. And so a person who struggles with this, first and foremost, needs to get some help. But the other thing is, you have to begin to release and relinquish some of that control as it relates to your environment. um, and if you, and let's just say you're a person who struggles to go to events, but you really want to, then some of the strategies that you can use is to go into the event, but maybe stay closer to the door, or have your back towards the wall so that you can see what's in front of you and there's nothing behind you. Another
Mm.
thing that you could do is surround yourself with people that you feel safe with. And so
Mhm.
that those people are around you. You might have an exit strategy where, okay, I'm going to stay right here because it's close to the door. Now, all of these concessions or accommodations you're making, and you're being intentional about them so that you can still participate in those things. And
Yeah.
so, there are some people that I work with that struggle with those disorders, and we kind of talk about a plan or strategy for them to go out. So, like, if you find yourself getting anxious, if you go to a mall, I want you to go to a wall and I want you to ground yourself. Make sure your
Mhm.
feet is flat. Make
Mhm.
sure your hands are touching the wall. Because the idea is, if you're in a panic mode, again, it's loss of control.
Right.
Anxiety has everything to do with loss of control. And so grounding exercises is a way to help you remind your mind is reminding your body that it's safe and it's secure.
Mhm.
And so that is a way. So when you think about getting into these activities or being intentional about going past your anxiety, you want to do grounding exercises where you are really feeling what's around you, even if it's your own body, doing a body scan where you are, feeling your limbs and those things that will bring you present and current. Right? Those are things that you can do where you can still enjoy that holiday party. You can still enjoy that family function. Those kinds of things where you are being intentional, where I don't want to imprison myself. So I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna just go to Lydia's house. I'm just gonna spend 30 minutes there. That's cool. Just do a little bit. So just go there. Maybe you want to put a chair near the door or put a chair at the wall. So your back is against the wall. The door is right there. So if you feel that urge, you can go to the door. So there are things that you could do to really help you as you transition out of that.
Right. Because one of the go ahead.
Could you tell us what agoraphobia is for those of us who don't understand?
Okay, so agoraphobia. So when you think about agoraphobia, well, specific phobia and agoraphobia is a little close, or some social anxiety. Agoraphobia is about you feeling enclosed in a public environment. Right. So sometimes you could be walking in a mall or something and you feel like everything closing in on you. So there's an anxiety in social settings. It's almost like social anxiety, but it's a little specific, right? But it deals with fear of public places and sometimes specific public places.
Okay. I'm sorry, Adrian. You can go ahead now. And I just wanted to get that out there because sometimes people don't understand certain words. So
yeah. No, I was just going to say, and what's so important about the anxiety piece and maintaining control, when we're maintaining control, we're also losing. We're losing our quality of life because we have to have control. So we're not going here, we're not doing that, we're not doing this because we've got control of our environment. But in that environment, it's just us. And so because we're social beings and we're meant to connect, we're losing when we gain total control of that environment.
Yeah. And because I mentioned names to give specificity to it, agoraphobia would be a person who goes into an elevator and has a panic attack because they're in the elevator. The door is closed, they feel helpless, and so they have a fear of elevators. Specific phobia is a person that has a panic attack when they see a spider, because there's a specific phobia to a specific event. And then social anxiety, again, could be similar to agoraphobia, where it's like going into a mall or going into a store. Like some people now are saying that they can't do supermarkets anymore because they get really anxious. So being in like public places. So that's where the social anxiety is, or meeting friends. Like I may have an anxiety attack if I walk up to you and and you speak to me, then I might, clam up because now I'm uncomfortable with this new setting. So those are the different examples of them, since I named those.
thank you. Because a lot of people, they have what you're saying, they just don't know what the specific term is for it. And then they don't even know that they need to see somebody. They've been living so long with this control factor controlling them.
Right.
So I was amazed when I heard a young person said, I think I need a companion dog. That's what they think. And they were like, I think I need one. And they were going to college, and then college doesn't allow they will allow it for certain students, but you have to be diagnosed. And they weren't diagnosed, but they was like, well, they really just wanted to take their dog to school, but they couldn't. But they thought that would be a good way to get the dog there.
Listen.
But it was amazing that they actually knew what that meant,
It's definitely much more widespread now. It's amazing the amount of people, that are looking for that certification. And, doctors can do it, therapists can do it, sign off on the papers, and it's definitely widespread now. You see the dogs in stores and public transportation, and they are all over now.
Airplanes.
In schools, absolutely. So they're definitely coming out.
Yeah. Well, ladies, I have to thank you. We are 55 minutes in. It happens so fast every time. It's amazing to me. Um, it's such a pleasure to speak with both of you each time because if you are watching this for the first time, our conversations are always very fluid. They just flow until we just
We run
run
out
over
of
time
time.
sometimes. Run out of time. But
Yeah.
we're 55 minutes in, and I wanted to make sure that we have the opportunity to tell you what's upcoming for Ebony and Adrian. And so, Ebony, first, before I jump into that, thank you, God. Thank you for being here. And all of you who are watching, thank you for watching and staying with us this entire year. We appreciate you, and we hope that the topics that we cover in each session help you, just like this very important topic we're talking about today. We seek here on the Lioness Den to make sure that we bring enlightening content because we could sit here and laugh all day. That's funny, but did it help you when we go off the air? So we try to make sure we bring something that can change your life and can change the trajectory of who you are and where you're going. With that being said, Ebony and Adrian both have upcoming events, and I want to make sure that we talk about those because these ladies share with you, and I want you to be able to share with them. So, Ebony, can you tell us about your upcoming event?
Yes. So we are Nexus Wellness Group is a mental health practice in the Owens Mills area, and we are expanding. So we are offering some additional services to the community, and one in particular program is Haven, and we are establishing a program to really help ministry leaders and entrepreneurs and high achievers address the reality of burnout and helping people to revive and regain their passion for purpose. And so this is a new assignment that we are adding, and we are also moving into high schools and middle schools. Right now, we have a partnership with the school system, with a school system where we work with several schools. So we are increasing our school placements, but then we are also moving into the community and adding services that we will be able to bring to you. And so our open house is January the 18th at 3 p.m.
For some reasons, I was clicking the wrong button and I did it 3 times. So it happens. Ebony, that is amazing. I just want
Amazing.
to tell you, just the whole Haven idea and the school idea
Yes.
is they're both amazing. As I said before, we came on, you are just like everywhere, international, doing everything right now. I when I grow up, I want to be just like you. That's what I'll say to that.
Oh,
I want to be just like you because you are doing it, and I am, you know, happy to know you. Adrian,
oh,
let's talk about it.
Yeah, so we have a couple of things coming up. I don't have the dates, so you're gonna have to stay tuned and follow me on Facebook and Instagram so that you have the dates. But we do in January, we always do a vision board workshop. And we call it a vision board experience because I believe in the power of your vision being in alignment with your purpose. And then that helps you to produce what you see. And so we're going to have that in January. We also do the refreshing retreats. We're going to Punta Cana this year. We take a group of professional women away where we relax, we refresh, we renew, we relaunch. They get ready for their businesses. They have time, fun on the ships, and it's just been an amazing time. So look out for our stuff. We're excited about what we're doing. And that's what's up for us.
All right. Great. Look, Adrian, I'm going to get to a refreshing, what is it? Relax, relate, release. I'm going to get to one of
yes.
those. I'm telling you, it has to happen. It must
It has to
happen
happen.
for me. It has to happen.
It has to
Guys,
happen. It will happen.
it will happen. Look, please check out Adrian and Ebony. And don't forget, we are still selling, let's see, our peace journal.
Yes.
Uh, it is still on sale. Let's see. There it is. So please, it's Christmas time. You got a few days. Order your peace journal. Give it out. It's a great gift. I promise you. Peace Talks, A Journey into Peace. It is an amazing book. I wrote it, but I still think it's amazing. Um,
Yes.
It is.
I think it's amazing. I have reread it myself. So I think I called Adrian. If I didn't call Adrian, I called one of my other friends, Madeline, and I said, you write books. Do you read your book after you write it? And they were like, absolutely. Just pick it up and start
Absolutely.
reading, just like I didn't write it. And so I've done the same thing. I've enjoyed the book myself. I've had so many people contact me about how they enjoyed the book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
please pick up the book. It's on Amazon, or you can go on to our Lioness Den page, and there's a link there to order it directly from me. But either way,
Order
get
the
your
book.
peace. Get your
Get
peace.
your
The book.
book.
Get your book. And then we, of course, have the Life Happens conference coming up this year, and we will be releasing our second book
Yeah.
at Life Happens this year. So, you know, uh, just prepare to be there. I'm talking about it early this time. Usually, I wait closer to October, but I'm talking about it early.
Yeah.
We will have different deals throughout the year so that we can get you there, because this is a conference that is amazing. It's not like anything else you've been to. I promise you, it is. You've never seen anything like it, and when you leave, you won't be the same.
Yeah. Amen.
So I do want to say to everyone who knows Dr. Michael, please keep his family in prayer. Today is his homegoing service, and we want to make sure that we are lifting them up in this time of bereavement for
Yeah.
them. And I think that's about it, guys. Stay tuned to the Lioness Den. We will be back in January, February, March, April, May. Just count all the months. We'll be here every month because that is what we do, and we love you. That's why we continue to do it. We don't do it just for us, because we won't say that we don't get some satisfaction out of it, but we do it definitely for you. So
Yeah.
stay tuned to all of the wonderful things we have coming up. This year is going to be an amazing year. 2025 is going to be an amazing year. We are going to see new stuff that we've never seen before. Look, aren't we? We have to see new stuff we've never seen before because it's a new year. But on the Lioness Den, we will have new content that will again enlighten, empower, and enrich you. So thank you all for being here today. Adrian and Ebony, thank you so much. I love you guys to
Thank
life.
you.
And we will see you the third weekend in January with our SMART goals and planning our new year. So, with that being said, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and we
Merry
will see you.
Christmas.
Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.